Hello and welcome to Kerbal Space Program. First off, I'd like to thank you for joining me on this little experiment. But in this series, we're going to attempt to replicate some of the actual space missions that NASA has done in the past, going all the way back from the days of Gagarin and Shepard and all the way up to Shuttle, and maybe even past that. We are mainly going to be focusing on crewed spaceflight, that is, missions with a human being aboard, but I think we can throw in some probes now and then, especially in honor of the recent Japanese achievement with Ryugu and bringing back some samples from that asteroid. And yeah, so we're going to select our difficulty here. Crew respawn timer. Fine, that's fine. I don't really. Reentry heating. I'm actually gonna pop that up a little bit, as well as the resource abundance. I've noticed that reentry heating, while significant, isn't as much as it is in real life. That's why I'm boosting it up there. So, require signal for control, yes. Plasma blackout, of course. Kerbal G-force limits, all the way. Resource transfer obeys crossfeed, yep. And that sounds good. I'm going to... Occlusion is fine, building impact is fine. DSN, I'm going to boost up a little bit, just to 1.5. And range, I'm also going to boost up to 1.5. Just because that's what I've noticed is more realistic in these missions. So hopefully, if this if this series goes on for long enough, we might be able to explore some potential missions and run those through in Kerbal Space Program, but we gotta get through all the real stuff first. And so, aptly, I think that we should name this one Realism. Not Real Sim. Realism. And not part one, just Realism. So, it looks like that's it. Let's get going. By the way, I apologize for how the video looks. I'm not knowledgeable enough with OBS to be able to get rid of this black bar on the sides. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. But anyway, I've got that. Admittedly, I have played a little bit of Kerbal Space Program before, but so if that's not your thing, then you can head on out anytime you like. Please only watch this if you find this entertaining or educational or whatever the heck. But certainly don't stick around if you're not having fun. There are plenty of other KSP people, Nexter's Lab, SW Dennis, Scott Manley, Matt Lown, to name a few. Yeah, so I'm going to assume that a person watching this knows absolutely nothing about Kerbal Space Program. So I'm going to take a little bit to explain what the game is. If you're a person who knows what it is, obviously you can skip forward a little bit, and then we'll go launch some rockets. But for those of you who don't know, I'll make this brief. Kerbal Space Program is a spaceflight simulator, a very critically acclaimed one. I'm not going to do a whole tour of the solar system, but it has planets, moons, a sun, and little Kerbals down here that can go on your spacecraft. You build your spacecraft or space planes in this, the vehicle assembly building, or this, the space plane hangar, and you launch them up, and that's literally all there is to the game. If you want, you can play career mode, which sets out little contracts for you to complete and enables a science aspect and funding management to the game, but just for the purposes of this series, I'm going to be playing in Sandbox. So, the very first mission I think we should do is, just to show everybody the ropes, would be the Mercury 1 mission with Alan Shepard. So, this will be a good tutorial for building spacecraft. I'm only going to do this once, so if you need a reminder about how to build spacecraft in detail, you can always come back to this video. But, so, first off, you're going to want to choose a part for your Kerbal to be in. This will be the Mark 1 command pod. It can store or house or support one Kerbal for an indefinite period of time. I'm sure there are mods that have oxygen and stuff as a consumable. Oh, and speaking of mods, I have many of them installed. Very many of them installed, in fact. So if you just got the game and your game doesn't look like this, or you don't have these many parts, don't worry. It's not, your game's just fine. I just have a butt ton of mods installed. So, yeah, anyway, capsule. Here we are. We need to select a crew to go on this mission. Jebediah Kerbin, that's fine. Let's do the pale blue. I guess it's the closest to a nice mercury silver that you can find. So, let's first focus on the capsule itself. What does a capsule need? Well, generally, when you get launched up in a rocket, you want to come back down, so you're going to need to select a parachute. You're going to do that by clicking over here on the part you want to select. It can be literally anything, a utility module for a space station, flag, whatever. That's how you pick stuff from the item menu, is just by clicking on it and just moving your mouse over. So, here's the parachute. As you can see, there's little green dots there, which line up, and you can snap that bad boy on there right there. So, we've got the parachute covered, but we need to survive the fiery inferno that is reentry. As this is a suborbital flight, meaning that it won't go into orbit around Kerbin, which is the equivalent to Earth in this game, it won't be as severe, but it is still nice to have. So here's the heat shield, blammo, and that is our capsule sorted. It can get down to the ground from space. Awesome. Now we need something to put it up there. Meaning we need a rocket. But we also need something to attach the capsule to the rocket, hence the decouplers. Excuse that, I'm sorry. So let's grab that. We can use decouplers right here, aptly named TD12. Bam. Same process, just click, move your mouse over, click again when the parts match up. So, we've got a decoupler, we've got a capsule, we've got a parachute, and a heat shield. Let's build this rocket already. I have a lot of mods. I can explain. I have a lot of mods. But I'm going to be making ships mainly from stock parts, unless the mission specifies that it's a non-stock part mission, like a Saturn V or something. Because if I'm making a Saturn V, I want to give it the respect that beast deserves. So, we're going to select a fuel tank. There are two components, of course, to a rocket, a fuel tank and an engine. Here is the fuel tank, right here. And then we need an engine. Now, I couldn't really find an engine that's the exact same as the ones used on the Redstone rocket. But just for simplicity's sake, I think we're going to use good old swivel. Because I did know that the Redstone had a gimbling engine, meaning that the engine bell, which is this little doohickey down here, is able to move around and direct the thrust of the rocket. And of course, it had some fins. Who could forget the fins? Whambo blambo. That's a rocket. Let's name this bad boy. All unreliable. Because I can. And of course we've got Jebediah in there. Of course we do. And now there's one more thing that you gotta do before you launch. And if you don't check this, the heavenly angel that is Scott Manley will come down and wreak havoc on your soul. So make sure you do this. It is of vital importance before you launch any rocket. This step, of course, is to check your staging. So, as you can see here, we've got a little staging bar. It goes from bottom to the top, you know, the higher number to the lower number. Confused me the first couple times I played it, but I got used to it. So as you can see here, the engine will fire. Then the decoupler will decouple. Then the parachute will deploy. Perfect. That's what we want. So everything seems to be in order. Let's launch this son of a gun. Now this rocket won't really go anywhere. It's just going into low Earth orbit. It's going into a suborbital trajectory, meaning it's just gonna pop up like a cannonball and come back down like a cannonball. Let me turn off chatter real quick. Sorry about that. No chatter. Stop it. Mute it. There we go. As I said, I have a lot of mods installed. Yeah, so here's the rocket on the pad. As you can see, there's the VAB in the distance, as well as the spaceplane hangar, tracking station, launch pad, runway, flag, very important. And yeah, I don't think there's anything much really to show about that, so let's get to launching. SAS, it's a stability assist. It's not necessary, but it's just very handy to have. I would recommend it. Your throttle is right here, up and down. You press shift and control. Shift is up, throttle is down. If you want to go full throttle right away, you can press Z. If you want to cut the throttle right away, you press X. And then to activate the next part in your staging, you press the space button. So let's throttle all the way up here. And when we're ready, let's press the space button. So 3, 2, 1, ignition. And off we go. The launch of All Unreliable. Jebediah Kerbin looking a little more worried. Maybe wishing that he hadn't strapped himself to a rocket piloted by me after all. Yeah, so as you can see, we got our velocity down here at 300 meters per second. Currently, we've just passed the sound barrier. So now let's take advantage of this gimbling engine and start rolling over. You can see this is our heading right here. That little circle plus symbol there is what's called prograde, and that is the direction of velocity. I guess speed, because speed is scalar, velocity is vector. Usually, by the way, you don't have this on launch. They certainly didn't have it on the first Mercury mission. This massive cloud of ionized plasma on launch. That's just called a whole lot of acceleration. So here is the map view. As you can hear, as you can see, excuse me, this is Kerbin in all of its glory. Circled, of course, by our loving moon. And there's that music cutting in. The music only cuts in when you're officially in space, or you have passed the Karman line, or Karman line, depending on which country you're from. And the Karman line in this game is 70 kilometers up. In real life, it's defined as 100 kilometers up, but this is not real life. But it's pretty darn close. So, math and physics wise, or math and physics wise, I want to clarify that right away. So, let's activate the next part of our staging here and decouple the capsule from the rocket. You can do this one of two ways. You can either press space, and that'll activate the next thing in the staging, or you can right-click the part to see a list of options. Enable, disable crossfeed, of course, or decouple. So now, we're just a capsule floating free in space. Let's turn the lights on here, and let's see what we have options for. Control points, crew transfers, reaction wheels, different control mechanisms, lights on, off, torque, but I want the crew report. Crew report from Jebediah Kerman while in space near Kerbin. It seems that we are very much in space right now. The sky seems mostly below us. I would say so. Seems decently below you. I mean, you are 213 kilometers up at the moment. So yeah, let's keep that experiment. Let's take some time to look at this view without the HUD. Sorry about that jump cut. I accidentally pressed the button to turn on my face cam, which is not something that I want to do. And I'll have to do another jump cut because the key to turn on and off the overlay here is F2, and that just so happens to be the key that turns on my face cam. So, I mean, what can you do? So there'll be another jump cut here. Really testing my editing skills. And I'm back with the HUD enabled. Here we are. As you can see, there's the minuscule looking Kerbal Space Center down there. Look how big Kerbin is. God, the grandeur of this game is always just amazing to me. So, let's toggle the map here. We're still not at our apoapsis, or apogee, which is the farthest away that you get from the body that you are influenced by gravitationally. So the farthest away, the highest we're going to be over Kerbin is just over 300 kilometers. 316 to be exact. And that's going to happen in 1 minute and 40 seconds. As you can see up here in our MET, or mission elapsed time, it's been 5 minutes and 30 seconds since we launched. And things appear to be going well. So now, as the music crescendos behind me, thank you, music, I will demonstrate another aspect of this game. One of the most useful tools that you can have in Kerbal Space Program, that is time warp. Now, yes, in real life you cannot warp time, but if you're like me, you don't have a lot of time on your hands. So you're going to need something to compress the time. And time warp is that tool. So up here you can see 5 times time. So now time is progressing 5 times its normal rate. We can increase that to 10 times or even 50 times. I'm not going to go much higher than that. In fact, I'm going to reduce it because we're starting to fall. And you can get all the way up to, what is it? That's 1 million times normal speed. And that's for if you want to do, you know, interplanetary missions all the way out in the solar system. I'm not sure if you people have picked up on it yet, but I absolutely adore space to within an inch of its life. It is amazing in every way, shape, and form, and anyone who says otherwise, I will politely correct. As you can see, Jebediah Kerbin is just happily sitting in his capsule there, completely unaware of the fiery inferno that he's about to be engulfed in. In just under 10 seconds now. For once that altimeter hitches 70, we are entering back into the atmosphere, or re-entering, if you will. It's very interesting that term re-enter, because it implies that the first time that you enter would be when you're born. But as you can see here, the plasma created by the air compression, not the air friction. Oh, that was the booster. And just akin to the real mission, Jebediah is pulling some very serious G's. It looks like a peak G of 14.5 there. My goodness. That's 14 times regular gravity. That's what a G-force is. 1 G is 9.8 meters per second squared. Yeah, so we're going to need to deploy our parachute here pretty soon in order to stop us from just smacking into the water at 240 meters per second. So let's throw that out, and hopefully it'll inflate. There we go. Caught the wind, and will slow us down to a nice and gentle 5, 6, yeah, looks like about 6 meters per second. I wouldn't want to land on land with that, but it should be perfectly fine for landing in the water, especially with the heat shield as a buffer and specially modified chairs. Oh, no shock absorbers. I guess that's a difference from real life in this game. I guess they really want their Kerbal knots in this game to really feel every last impact. And bam, splash down. And that is it. Brave little Jebediah Kerbin has successfully splashed down on the surface of Kerbin. And that marks the end of my little recreation of the very first time that the U.S. put a person into space. I know that this particular episode wasn't very oriented on the space mission itself. It was a lot of talking about the mechanics of the game, but I promise future episodes will be more thorough about talking about the actual missions, now that all of the game mechanics are out of the way. So we're going to recover the vessel from the ocean here. And after a brief loading period and some birds, we can see that Jebediah Kerbin is ready for the next assignment. And there you have it, folks. Kerbal Space Program. This was the very first episode, and I am so looking forward to taking this journey with y'all. At the current time, y'all is nobody, so I'm really taking this journey with myself. But who knows? Maybe I'll look back at this video in a future time and say, ha, look at that poor son of a gun. Just talking to himself in an empty room. Oh well. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. In the next episode, we'll take a look at some things a bit more Soviet. And yeah, I will see you all then. Thank you very much for watching. See ya.